call Carmel Sepuloni.
Mr Chair, thank you for allowing me to take a call on this bill, and I just firstly want to acknowledge Sue Moroney for the work that she's put into this. I also want to acknowledge all of the many credible and important organisations that made submissions on this bill. Mr Chair, listening to Minister Anne Tolley, I couldn't help but listen to her say we have different views on what will make a difference, and sitting here thinking, well, our views on what will make a difference should be based on evidence, Mr Chair. And Mr Chair, I've got a number of submissions here from the Children's Commissioner, from the Human Rights Commission, from different parenting groups, from the Council of Trade Unions, from Business New Zealand, from a whole range of organisations, Mr Chair, saying that this is the right thing to do. Mr Chair, recently, I think, well, actually not so recently, but like many people in this House, I have children. And Mr Chair, like many people in this House, I have a very comfortable middle-class working situation. And Mr Chair, I was very fortunate for the first 6 months of having my own baby a year and a half ago, to be able to take that baby to work, to be able to continue to breastfeed, to be able to take that baby into board meetings. And Mr Chair, that breastfeeding was very important. We know through all the evidence that breastfeeding for at least 6 months is what is recommended not only by the World Health Organisation, but from our own Ministry of Education, Mr Chair, Ministry of Health. Our own Ministry of Health advises that we should be breastfeeding for at least the first 6 months. And Mr Chair, in my little middle-class existence, I was able to do that because of my own working environment and support from my employer. But Mr Chair, so many of our people out there, our women out there, are working in jobs where that is not possible, Mr Chair, where actually they do need some assistance from the state to be able to do what is recommended by the state, which is to be able to stay with their child and exclusively breastfeed for the first 6 months. And here we are listening to the Minister, Anne Tolley, tell us that we all have different views on what will make a difference. Well, actually, different views maybe on that side of the House, but the rest of New Zealand, including very credible organisations, have a very clear view that 26 weeks paid parental leave as a bare minimum should be something that that government over there should be supporting. So again, I acknowledge Sue for pushing this forward. Mr Chair, we've heard arguments in the lead up to this bill being discussed in the House about how that side of the House perceives it as not being fiscally responsible. But Mr Chair, when we go through the submissions, then we see very clearly that actually it's fiscally irresponsible not to support this bill because of the consequences of not supporting parents to be able to stay home and look after their children if it's in their best interest and their child's best interest and if it's what they want to do. But instead, what we had was when Sue Moroney announced 26-week paid parental leave bill, the government try and compromise an evidence-based position around 26 weeks by saying, well, we'll give 18 weeks instead, knowing that actually it's very popular with the public, but not only popular with the public, but also based on evidence. So, Mr Chair, I'm really disappointed with the National Party. I'm really disappointed because there has to come a time where we can actually look at legislation, we can look at provisions that need to be put in place, and surely use our common sense, not quoting New Zealand First here, but use our common sense and make a decision that's based on the well-being of New Zealanders, Mr Chair. There are so many repercussions to parents not being given the opportunity to stay home with their children in that first 6 months in particular. We see evidence through places like the Brainwave Trust in terms of how important that bonding is, all of the evidence that comes with the breastfeeding and the fact that long term that actually has a positive influence on a number of different health areas for that child, including things like protecting them from allergies. The longer you breastfeed, the less likely they are to get things like eczema, asthma, and a whole lot of other respiratory things, Mr. Speaker. And in the long term, Mr. Chair, sorry, in the long term, it actually saves us money if we're ensuring that right from the start in those very first 6 months that we are looking after. Mr. Chair.
Call Derek
Mr.
Bull.
Chair.
A good choice.
Mr. Chair, I rise